The mining station called Gray Anchor floated in the quiet darkness of space. It was a lonely place, far from the busy trade routes and bright worlds of human civilization. The station's job was simple: dig valuable minerals from the dead, moon below, and send them to cargo ships once a month. The work was not exciting, and most workers counted the days until their next break. Rian, a maintenance engineer, liked the quiet more than most. He spent his shifts in the control room checking systems, fixing problems, and watching the stars through the wide viewing glass. The hum of machines was a constant companion. Out here, you learned to trust machines like friends. On this particular shift, something unusual happened. The control panel gave a sharp beep, then a flashing light appeared on the communications board. Ryan frowned. This channel was for emergency use only, and it showed an incoming transmission from deep space. No ships were scheduled in that sector. He pressed a button and listened. At first, he only heard static. Then, faintly, a voice began to form. It was not quite clear, but the words carried an urgency that made Ryan's pulse quicken. "Help! Anyone! Please! Save my clan! Human!" Help! The voice was strange, not fully human, with an accent he could not place. It broke apart in the static, but the desperation in the tone was unmistakable. Ryan leaned closer to the speaker, trying to clean up the signal. The transmission repeated, with slight changes. "Human? You hear my people dying? You save. I give you strong children. My clan. Live." Ryan blinked, unsure if he understood correctly. The message sounded personal, but also ancient, like a vow. Still, the meaning was clear. Someone out there was in trouble, and they believed only a human could help. He checked the coordinates. The signal came from far beyond safe travel lanes, in an area marked on charts as unstable space. The official rule was simple: never enter that zone. Ships had vanished there in the past, and rumors claimed hostile forces roamed the region. Ryan leaned back in his chair, thinking. He should report this to the station commander and let them handle it. But he also knew what would happen. The commander would mark it as too risky, file it away, and the sender of that call would be left to die. The voice came again, weaker this time. "If human here, I beg, time is short." Ryan felt a weight in his chest. Whoever this was, they were fading. He thought of the long, cold corridors of Gray Anchor, of the endless days spent fixing machines, of the stories his grandfather told him about humans making their mark in the galaxy. Those stories were about courage, about doing the right thing even when it was dangerous. He made his choice. Ryan stood and walked to the docking bay. His personal ship, the Driftwing, was a small scout vessel meant for short runs. It was not. Built for heavy combat, but it was fast and had a strong navigation system. He quickly loaded supplies, water, food packs, spare power cells, and ran a systems check. Before leaving, he entered a short note into the station log. Following: unknown distress signal. Coordinates attached. Back soon. He knew soon might be a lie. The Driftwing left Gray Anchor quietly, its engines glowing pale blue. Once clear of the moon's gravity, Ryan set course for the source of the signal. The ship's computer warned him twice about danger zones ahead, but he overrode the warnings. The journey grew darker as he left the familiar star maps. Here, the stars seemed sharper and colder. Strange clouds of dust drifted between them, lit by distant suns. Sometimes, the ship's sensors picked up movement, but nothing stayed long on the screen. Hours passed. Ryan kept replaying the voice in his mind. It was strange, but it carried a sense of honor, as if the speaker was making a promise they would never break. He wondered who they were, what kind of people they belonged to, and why they needed a human so badly. The signal grew stronger as he approached the coordinates. Outside the window, he began to see the remains of a battle. Pieces of metal drifted slowly through space, spinning in the black. Some looked like parts of ships, others like fragments of buildings. Whatever happened here was massive, and it was recent. The Driftwing's scanners picked up a small planet ahead. Its surface looked broken, with deep scars running across continents and great clouds of smoke rising into space. No living world could survive damage like that for long. The signal came again, now clear. The voice was female, deep, and steady despite weakness. "Human, you have come. I see your craft. Land near the tall spire. Hurry!" Ryan's hands tightened on the controls. He guided the ship toward a tall, jagged structure that rose from the ruined surface. It looked like it had once been part of a great city, but now it stood alone in a wasteland of ash. The landing was rough, as the ground was uneven and the air thin. Ryan put on his helmet and oxygen pack, then opened the hatch. The wind outside was sharp and carried the smell of burning. Through the haze, he saw her. She was tall, nearly a head higher than him, with skin that seemed to catch the light in silver tones. Her eyes were bright, almost glowing, and her clothing was made of torn but finely crafted material. She moved slowly, leaning on a spear-like staff, but there was strength in her posture. "You are human," she said, her voice low but firm. "I am Vera of the Shalrin. My clan is dying. You can save them." Ryan stepped forward, still unsure what he had stepped into. "Why me? Why a human?" Vera's gaze did not waver. "Because your kind has something we lost. You can fight in ways we cannot. You can survive where we fail. If you help me, I swear by my people's oath, our future will honor your name for all time." Ryan looked at the ruined land around them. The air shimmered with heat from distant fires. Above, the sky was filled with drifting wreckage. He felt the weight of her words. He had left Gray Anchor without knowing why. Now, standing here on this dying world, he knew this was no simple rescue. Whatever had destroyed this place might still be near, and helping Vera could mean walking straight into danger. But the thought of turning back never crossed his mind. The air was thin and dry, carrying the smell of dust and burned stone. Ryan followed Vera as she moved through the ruins, her tall frame steady despite the harsh wind. The jagged spire that had served as his landing point now faded behind them, replaced by broken walls and shattered towers. Ryan had seen ruins before on abandoned mining worlds, but this was different. These buildings had once been part of something grand. Their shapes were smooth, their designs artistic, as if they had been made with care and pride. Now they lay in pieces, blackened by fire and scarred by weapons. Vera spoke without turning, her head. "This city was once called Shalrin's Crown. It was the heart of my people. From here we ruled the forests and the seas. Now only shadows remain." Ryan glanced at her. "You said your clan is dying. Are there others still alive? Here?" She nodded slowly. "A few. Most are hidden in shelters far from this place. But the enemy still searches for them. The machines patrol the skies and the ground. If they find the shelters, my people will be gone forever." Her words carried no fear, only a heavy certainty. Ryan wondered how long she had been living like this, waiting for rescue that never came. They reached a wide street where the ground was cracked and uneven. A large hole had torn through the middle of it, leading into darkness below. Vera stopped and pointed down. "We rest here. The air below is safer for now." Ryan followed her into the opening. The passage was narrow, with walls of stone and metal. Strange glowing patterns marked the walls, faint but still visible, like symbols from a language he could not read. The tunnel led to a small chamber where pieces of broken furniture and scraps of cloth lay scattered. Vera sat against the wall, setting her staff beside her. Her breathing was slow and controlled, but Ryan could see she was tired. He handed her a small water pack from his belt. She accepted it with a brief nod and drank. "Thank you, human," she said. "Your name?" "Ryan," he replied. "Ryan," she repeated, as if testing the sound. "I will remember it." For a moment they sat in silence. Then Ryan asked, the question that had been in his mind since he arrived. "You said the enemy is machines. What kind of machines?" Vera's silver eyes hardened. "They are called the Vaith. They are not from this galaxy. Long ago they came in great ships, offering peace. But their peace was the silence of the grave. They believe life other than theirs is a threat. At first, they studied us. Then, they began to erase us." Ryan frowned. "Why did they attack your people first?" Her gaze lowered. "Because we fought them. Others fled, but we stood our ground. For 100 years we held them back. But the Vaith do not grow tired. They do not fear death. They only adapt. In the end, our strength failed." The way she spoke made Ryan feel the weight of centuries. This was not just a small war. It was the end of an entire way of life. After a short rest, Vera stood and motioned for him to follow. They moved deeper into the tunnels until they reached a spot where a wide crack opened to the outside. Through it, Ryan could see the broken skyline of the city. "From here you will understand," Vera said. Ryan looked out and froze. High in the sky, dark shapes moved slowly. They were not ships like he had seen before. Their forms were long and sharp, with glowing red eyes on their fronts. Small drones swarmed around them like insects. The air seemed to hum with their presence. Vera spoke in a low voice. "The Vaith seek heat and movement. Stay still and they will pass. But if they see you..." She left the rest unsaid. Ryan studied the machines and felt a chill. His scout ship could not fight them. Even a fleet might struggle. Yet here was Vera, asking him to challenge them for the sake of her people. When the machines drifted out of sight, they moved again. Vera led him to an old building half buried in rubble. Inside, under a collapsed roof, was a small group of metal crates. She pried one open and revealed a set of strange devices, curved pieces of polished metal with faint lights. "These are cloaks," she explained. "They bend light and hide heat. My clan used them to move unseen. There are only a few left, but they will help you." Ryan picked one up. It felt light and warm in his hands. "If these work, why not go yourself to the shelters?" Vera's expression grew grim. "I tried. Alone I cannot fight the machines, but a human, you think in ways the Vaith cannot predict. You build traps. You use the world around you. That is why I called for one like you." Her trust in him felt heavy, but it also stirred something in Ryan. He had left his station without a real plan, only a feeling that someone needed help. Now he had a purpose: to find these shelters and bring the survivors to safety. As they left the building, a sudden noise shook the ground. Ryan looked up to see a drone descending from the sky, its red eyes scanning the area. Vera grabbed his arm and pulled him behind a wall. The drone hovered, then fired a thin beam of light at the ground, scorching it black. They stayed still until it moved away. Only then did Vera speak again. "We cannot stay here much longer. The Vaith will soon know you are here. We must move at first light." Ryan nodded. His heart was still beating fast, but his resolve was clear. "Then tell me where we're going." "To the shelters," Vera replied, "and to the last of my clan." They returned to the tunnel chamber to wait for morning. Ryan sat against the wall, listening to the distant hum of the machines. The stars outside were hidden by smoke, but he knew they were there, silent and endless. Somewhere out there was human space, safe and far away. But here, in this ruined world, someone was counting on him. Vera rested with her staff across her. Knees, her eyes closed, but her posture alert. Even in exhaustion, she carried herself like a warrior. Ryan wondered what her clan had been like before the war. Hunters, she had said, protectors, now scattered and dying. The thought brought him back to the voice that had called him across the stars. It had been more than just a plea for help. It was a vow, a promise that if he saved them, something lasting would come from it. He did not yet understand the full meaning, but he knew one thing. He could not turn back. Morning on this world was a dull gray light filtering through the smoke. When it came, Vera stood and handed him one of the cloaks. "Put this on. Today we start the first journey." Ryan fastened the device over his shoulders. The lights flickered and his own hand seemed to fade from sight. He gave Vera a small nod. "Let's go save your people." Vera's silver eyes brightened for a moment. "Yes, Ryan of humanity. Let us begin." The morning air was cold as Ryan and Vera stepped out from the cracked tunnel mouth. The sky above was a pale gray, filled with drifting smoke and the faint hum of distant machines. Ryan's cloak shimmered faintly before settling into invisibility, and Vera activated her own. From a few steps away, they were nothing more than faint shapes in the mist. They moved quickly but carefully through the ruins. Vera walked ahead, her spear tapping the ground softly to test for weak spots in the rubble. Ryan kept his eyes moving, scanning every shadow for signs of danger. The ground here was scattered with broken statues, carved from stone that had once been bright and polished. Now they were cracked, lying in pieces. After a long climb over a collapsed wall, they paused in the shelter of a fallen tower. Vera looked at Ryan, her silver eyes serious. "Before we go farther, you must understand the task. The shelters are hidden in dangerous places. The Vaith search them constantly. Once we find one, you must be ready to fight or run." Ryan gave a short nod. "I understand, but I still don't know why you put this on me instead of one of your own people." Vera lowered her voice. "Because you are human. Your kind has a gift we do not. You change your thinking quickly in battle. You can make plans from nothing. The Vaith are machines. They study patterns. When they fought us, they learned every move we made. But they have never fought humans like you." Ryan thought about that. In his years of work, he had learned to fix problems with limited tools, to improvise when things went wrong. Maybe she was right. They continued onward, crossing into an area where the buildings had been reduced to flat ground. Here, only the foundations remained, blackened by fire. Vera stopped beside a cracked metal plate half buried in dust. She tapped it twice with her spear, and a hidden latch opened. A small, round device rose from the ground, projecting a faint blue light. "This is a marker," Vera explained. "It tells me where a safe path begins. The Vaith cannot see it, but my people left them before the last battle." The path led them down a narrow alley, past piles of shattered armor and weapons. Some of the armor was shaped for tall figures, like Vera. Others were smaller, as if meant for her clan's young. Ryan said nothing, but the sight made him more determined to see this through. They stopped again when a faint buzzing filled the air. Vera pressed her back to the wall, motioning for Ryan to stay still. A black drone floated overhead, scanning the ground with a red beam. The cloak hid them from sight, but Ryan could feel the tension in his chest until the drone drifted away. Once it was gone. Vera spoke again. "Ryan, I must give you my promise now, before we reach the shelters. If we succeed and my clan survives, we will remember you. We will carry your name in our songs. And I will give my life to protect you and your bloodline. This is my oath as the last leader of the Shalren." Ryan was silent for a moment. "That's a strong promise. You don't even know me." "I know enough," she replied. "You came when no one else would. That is enough." Her words were not just gratitude, they carried the weight of tradition. Ryan could tell this was more than just a personal offer. It was something tied to her people's culture. He gave a short nod. Then I promise too. I'll get your people out. They pressed on, and the ruins gave way to rocky hills where the air felt even thinner. The ground here was sharp and uneven, as if torn apart by some great force. In the distance, Ryan saw the faint glow of fires still burning in deep cracks. "This is close to the first shelter," Vera said quietly. "It is hidden inside the mountain ahead, but the Vaith know this place. They guard it heavily." Ryan studied the area through his visor's scan mode. The entrance to the mountain was blocked by rubble, but small passages wound through the rocks. Several drones patrolled nearby, moving in precise patterns. "Let me try something," Ryan said. He crouched behind a boulder and took out a small repair tool from his belt. Using its cutting laser, he carved a chunk of rock until it was smooth enough to reflect light. Then he angled it toward the patrol route of one drone. When the drone passed, the reflection from the rock shone directly into its sensor, making it pause. That small delay broke its usual path, and it drifted off course. Vera's eyes widened slightly. "You use the sun against it. Clever." "It's just light," Ryan replied. "Machines like that can be tricked if you give them the wrong thing to look at." Using more bits of reflective metal and dust clouds, Ryan created small distractions until 2 of the 3 drones drifted away from the mountain entrance. The path was not clear for long, but it was enough. They moved quickly, keeping low, and slipped into a narrow crack in the rock. Inside, the air was cool and still. The passage twisted downward until they reached a heavy metal door half covered in dust. Vera placed her hand on a small panel beside it. A faint chime sounded and the door opened. Inside was a dimly lit chamber. The walls were lined with strange glass pods, most of them dark, but a few glowing faintly. Inside those, Ryan saw tall figures like Vera, their eyes closed, their bodies still. "They are in deep rest," Vera explained. "It slows their breathing and heartbeat so they can survive for many years. But they cannot wake without help. That is why I needed you. The machines have blocked our power lines. We must restore them before we can leave." Ryan stepped closer to one of the pods. The figure inside looked peaceful, but he could imagine the weight of years they had spent waiting. "How many?" he asked. "Here, 15, Vera said. "In the other shelters, more. If we save them all, my clan will live again." Ryan set down his pack and began checking the power lines along the wall. The damage was old, but not beyond repair. His hands moved quickly, twisting wires, replacing fuses, and cleaning connectors. The glow in the pods grew brighter. One by one, the figures inside began to stir. Vera watched silently, her spear resting at her side, but her eyes shone with something Ryan had not seen before: hope. When the first of her people opened their eyes, they looked at Ryan, then at Vera. She spoke to them in her own language, and they nodded slowly. Though he could not understand the words, Ryan felt the moment's weight. The promise had begun. The first shelter's power lines hummed softly now, sending energy back into the deep rest pods. The glow around them grew stronger with each minute. Ryan wiped the dust from his gloves and stepped back, watching as more of Vera's people slowly opened their eyes. Some were weak and needed help to stand. Others gripped the walls for balance, their long limbs stiff from years of stillness. They spoke to Vera in their own tongue, and she replied with calm but firm instructions. Though Ryan could not understand the words, he could hear the tone. Relief mixed with urgency. When all 15 were awake, Vera addressed them in a language Ryan could follow. "We are not safe here. The Vaith will come when they sense the power returning. We move now to the next shelter. It lies far to the east across the Black Hills." The survivors carried little. A few held spears or short blades made from strange, dark metal. Others had no weapons at all. Their faces were solemn, but when they looked at Ryan, They gave small nods of respect. Word of his help had already spread among them. The journey began quietly. The group moved through narrow canyons and dry riverbeds where the cliffs blocked the view of the skies. Rian kept the cloak active, staying close to Vera. The survivors walked behind in 2 lines, their steps light despite their size. Every hour, Vera stopped to listen to the wind and scan the horizon. Sometimes she would change direction without explaining why, avoiding open ground or turning toward hidden paths. Ryan soon learned to trust her instincts. By midday, they reached the edge of a wide plain, scattered with the remains of strange towers. Most were broken halfway up, their tops lying shattered in the dust. Ryan crouched behind a chunk of stone and scanned the plain through his visor. "There," he said quietly, pointing to a dark shape in the distance. A Vaith drone hovered, low scanning the ground. 2 more drifted on the far side of the plain, moving in slow circles. "We go around," Vera said, her voice firm. They began a long detour, keeping the towers between them and the machines. The plain stretched for miles, and Ryan's legs ached from the constant crouching. But they kept going until the towers gave way to jagged hills of black rock. Here, the air grew hot and dry. Thin streams of steam hissed from cracks in the ground, and the smell of minerals hung heavy. Vera explained that this was the Black Hills, a place where the ground was unstable from ancient volcanic fire. Few dared to cross it, but the Vaith. Machines rarely came here because of the heat rising from below. They moved carefully, testing each step before putting weight down. The survivors moved like hunters, spreading out to watch the rocks around them. Ryan noticed how they avoided certain areas where the stone looked too smooth, a sign of dangerous heat pockets. Halfway through the hills, the ground trembled. A crack opened a few steps from where Ryan stood, and a burst of hot steam shot into the air. The sudden noise echoed through the valley, and Vera's head snapped toward the sky. "They heard," she said sharply. From far off, a deep hum began to grow. Ryan knew it well now, the sound of approaching drones. The survivors tightened their grips on their weapons, but Vera raised a hand. "We hide, now!" They split into smaller groups, slipping into narrow gaps between the rocks. Rian followed Vera into a shadowed crevice. The heat here was stifling, but the rock walls hid them well. The hum grew louder until a drone passed overhead, scanning the hills with its red beam. Another followed, slower, as if searching for signs of movement. The cloaks helped, but Rian could feel the tension in every breath. One wrong step and the machines would know. The search lasted long minutes before the drones drifted away. Only when the sound faded completely did Vera signal the group to move again. By nightfall, they reached a ridge overlooking a wide valley. In the center stood a mountain with a smooth, pale side, almost like glass. Vera pointed toward it. The Chi. "Next shelter is there under the glass wall, but we must wait until dark is full. The Vaith have a patrol camp in the valley." They camped in silence, eating small rations. The survivors spoke quietly among themselves, but their eyes kept drifting to Ryan. He could tell they were curious about him, this outsider who had come into their dying world. When full darkness fell, Vera gave the signal to move. They descended into the valley, staying close to shadows. The patrol camp she had mentioned came into view, not tents or fires, but a cluster of floating platforms, each holding a few drones. They glowed faintly in the night, moving in slow circles like restless predators. Rian studied the movement of the drones. The platforms had a pattern, leaving small gaps in their coverage every few minutes. "We can slip through here," he whispered to Vera, tracing a line on the valley floor. She looked at it, then nodded. "Lead us." Ryan timed their movements with the drone patrols, darting forward when the gaps appeared. The group followed without a sound, their tall shapes blending into the night. Twice they had to freeze in place as a patrol drifted too, close, but both times the cloaks kept them hidden. They reached the base of the glass wall without being seen. Vera pressed her palm against a faint mark in the stone, and a hidden doorway slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the air was cooler, and the sound of the outside world faded. The passage led deep into the mountain, where they found another chamber of rest pods. This shelter was larger, holding more than 30. While Vera checked the status of the pods, Ryan began working on the power system. The damage here was worse than before, with melted wires and cracked connectors. He dug through his pack for spare parts, improvising replacements from scrap metal and bits of old tools. Hours passed as he worked, the survivors keeping watch at the doorway. Finally, the hum of power filled the chamber, and the first pod lit up. One by one, the others followed. When the first of the sleepers woke, they looked at Ryan and Vera with the same mixture of relief and respect he had seen before. The group of survivors grew from 15 to over 40, but Vera's face was tense. The Vaith will sense the power here as they did before. They will come faster this time. We cannot stay long. Ryan nodded. The hunt for the shelters was just beginning, and the enemy was already adapting. The mountain's cool air could not hide the growing sense of danger. The chamber of glowing pods was now filled with movement as more of Vera's people slowly awoke. Their silver eyes opened one by one, scanning their surroundings, adjusting to life again after years in deep rest. Some stepped forward to embrace those already awake from the first shelter, silent reunions heavy with emotion. Ryan kept his focus on his tools, double-checking the power lines. Every minute counted. The Vaith had learned from the first shelters, awakening, and he guessed they would come faster this time. Vera moved among her people, giving instructions in their language. Though Ryan could not understand the words, he could hear the urgency in her voice. When she returned to his side, she carried a small device, a smooth black stone with glowing threads across its surface. This was left by our scouts before the fall, she explained. It records movements in this region. If the Vaith approach, it will warn us. Ryan activated the scanner on his visor. The stone sent out a faint pulse, and moments later, red marks began to appear on his display. Small at first, then more, all moving in their direction. They are already on the way, he said. Vera's jaw tightened. Then we leave now. Those who cannot walk fast will be carried. We cannot fight them here. The survivors moved quickly, forming two lines as they left the chamber. Ryan took the rear, scanning the passages for any sign of movement. The tunnel leading to the surface was narrow, the walls glittering faintly with mineral dust. They emerged into the night, the glass wall of the mountain reflecting starlight. The valley below was quiet, but the scanner showed movement in the distance, multiple red marks closing in from different directions. Vera gave the signal, and they began, moving along the base of the mountain, keeping to the shadows. The survivors were silent, their tall frames moving with surprising speed. Ryan matched their pace, but his eyes kept flicking to the scanner. The enemy was spreading out, tightening a net around them. An hour into their escape, the first drone appeared. It floated above the ridge ahead, its red eye sweeping the ground. Ryan quickly motioned for the group to stop. He looked around for something to use, spotting a cluster of reflective crystals jutting from the rock. Breaking one free, he angled it toward the drone's sensor. When the next sweep came, the crystal flared brightly in the drone's view. The machine paused, turning toward the light. At that moment, Vera signaled the group to slip past on the opposite side of the ridge. It worked, but only briefly. More drones began to appear on the scanner, moving faster now. Ryan knew they were adapting, changing their approach. Vera slowed her pace until she was beside him. The Vaith are learning your tricks. They will not be fooled the same way again. Then, we'll need new ones, Ryan said. How far is the next shelter? 2 days on foot, she replied. If we move without rest, we can make it in less, but they will follow us all the way. The night passed without rest, the group moving steadily through rocky terrain. Just before dawn, they found cover in a deep canyon where the walls blocked the sky. Here, they stopped to drink and eat. The younger survivors looked exhausted, but no one complained. Rian sat beside a small pool of clear water, refilling his pack. "You've been fighting them for a long time," he said to Vera. "Why didn't anyone come to help your people?" Her expression grew distant. "We asked. Many heard our calls. Few answered. The Vaith destroy not only armies, but also the will to resist. They make others believe that fighting is hopeless. Your kind, you are still young in the galaxy. You have not yet been broken by fear." Ryan thought about his station back at Gray Anchor, about how easy it would have been to ignore her call. He was starting to realize that the fight here was not just for her clan, it was a warning for his own people. Before they could rest long, the warning stone pulsed in Vera's hand. She turned it so Ryan could see. 3 red marks were already in the canyon, moving toward them. They rose and moved again, taking a narrow path that climbed up the canyon wall. At the top, the land opened into a wide plain covered with low silver grass. It shimmered in the wind, but it offered no cover. Crossing it was dangerous, but there was no other choice. They moved quickly, the grass parting under their feet. Halfway across, the hum of engines filled the air. 3 drones descended from the clouds above. This time, they did not hover at a distance. They came straight in, red beams sweeping across the plain. The survivors spread out, some drawing weapons. Rian pulled out a small signal flare from his pack and twisted the top. A bright, blinding light shot into the air. The drones paused, sensors adjusting. In that instant, Vera and 2 of her warriors hurled their spears. The sharp metal tips struck true, piercing the drone's cores. 2 fell, smoking into the grass. The 3rd pulled back, retreating into the clouds. Ryan knew it was not running away, it was reporting. They pushed on until they reached a line of jagged cliffs. Here, Vera led them into a narrow cave hidden behind a curtain of vines. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of earth. "This place is old," she said. "It was once a hunting lodge for my people. The Vaith never found it." The group rested, but Ryan stayed near the entrance, watching the scanner. The red marks were still moving, still following. No matter how far they traveled, the enemy was always there. When Vera joined him, he spoke quietly. "They're not just chasing us, they're studying us. Every move we make, every trick I use, they're learning from it." Her gaze was steady. "Yes, that is why we must move faster than they can adapt. It is the only way to survive." Ryan looked out at the silver grass swaying in the distance. "If humanity ever faces them, we'll need to know how to fight back. This might be our only chance to learn before it's too late." Vera nodded. "Then we fight not only for my clan, but for your people too." The shadows of the enemy were always near now. Their presence felt even when unseen. The next shelter was still far ahead, but Ryan knew the real battle was already underway. The canyon opened into a deep rift, a jagged chasm stretching for miles. Smoke and dust rose from fissures in the ground, and the heat made the air shimmer. This was the final stretch before the next shelter. Vera led the group carefully, keeping the survivors close, and Ryan at her side. "Once we cross the rift, we can reach the shelter in the cliffs beyond," she said. "But the Vaith have taken notice. This will be the hardest fight yet." Ryan adjusted his cloak and scanned the area. Distant red dots moved across the rocky terrain. Drones, many more than they had seen before. The Vaith had learned from the earlier skirmishes and now hunted them with precision. "Do we have a plan?" Ryan asked. Vera nodded. "We split the enemy. You and I will take the left flank and draw as many as possible into the canyon. The rest will move along the right flank to the shelter. Keep them distracted, and the survivors will reach safety. Ryan swallowed hard. He had faced danger before, but never like this. These were machines without fear, without mercy, and they had numbers on their side. Still, he knew turning back was impossible. He had already promised to protect Vera's people. They moved forward, the ground trembling beneath their feet. As they reached the center of the rift, the first wave of drones descended. They hovered silently, scanning the ground with red lights. Vera whispered, "Now." Ryan used small reflective shards he had collected along the way. He angled them to create flashes of light in the drone's sensors. Some paused, others veered. Off course, Vera hurled spears at the distracted drones, piercing two instantly. The machines adapted quickly. A larger drone appeared, its armor thick and glowing with energy. It fired a pulse that cracked the rock near them. Ryan ducked behind a boulder, realizing the danger was greater than he imagined. "We need to split them faster," Vera shouted. Ryan nodded and grabbed a nearby crystal, reflecting sunlight into the drone's sensors. It faltered, giving Vera the opening to strike again. Two smaller drones crashed into the canyon floor, sparks flying. The survivors on the right flank were moving steadily toward the cliff shelter. Ryan could see them now, their tall forms blending into the shadows. Vera and he could not fail. A sudden sound made Ryan glance up. Another wave of drones approached from above, faster and more coordinated. He realized the Vaith had learned from their last escape and were now attacking as a group. Vera grabbed his arm. "We have no choice. We go to the top of the ridge and hold them off. It will give the others time." The climb was steep and treacherous. Rocks fell under their weight, and the heat from the fissures below made every step exhausting. When they reached the top, the drones were already closing in. Ryan set up makeshift mirrors on the rocky ledge. The sunlight reflected into the drone's sensors, causing momentary confusion. Vera struck with her spear, taking down two more machines. The remaining drones fired pulses that shook the ledge, but Ryan and Vera held their ground. Every strike, every reflection, every maneuver slowed the enemy. Below, the survivors reached the base of the cliffs. Some stumbled, exhausted from the long journey. Others kept moving, driven by fear and hope. The shelter's entrance glowed, faintly in the distance, a safe haven amid the chaos. Ryan glanced back at the drones above. They were relentless, but now they had slowed. The reflection trick worked longer than he expected. Vera's strikes were precise and lethal. Almost. "There," she shouted. Suddenly, a massive drone descended from the clouds, larger than anything they had seen. Its energy core glowed brightly, and it fired a pulse that sent a shockwave through the ridge. Ryan was thrown to the ground, his cloak flickering. Vera was on her feet instantly, throwing her spear with all her strength. The weapon struck the drone's core, causing sparks and a loud explosion. It stumbled but did not fall. Ryan scrambled, realizing they could not hold it forever. He grabbed another shard, aiming it at the core. The reflection created a blinding light that caused the drone to twist uncontrollably. Vera struck again, piercing the core fully. The drone collapsed, smoking, sparks flying into the air. The other drones hesitated. Their programming could not adapt quickly enough. Ryan and Vera pressed the attack, combining speed, skill, and clever tricks to keep the enemy at bay. Meanwhile, the survivors reached the cliffs. Vera shouted instructions in her language, guiding them into the shelter. They moved quickly, slipping through hidden entrances that led deep into the mountain. The glow of life pods awaited them, a safe place to rest and recover. When the last of her people reached safety, Vera turned to Ryan. "You did it," she said, breathing heavily. "You gave them life again." Ryan looked around at the ridge. The drones had retreated, damaged and confused. The rift was silent, filled only with the distant hum of fissures below. He realized that the fight was not over, but for now, they had won. Vera placed a hand on his shoulder. Your courage saved my people. Humanity has a strength we thought lost. You are more than what your kind knows. Ryan smiled faintly. We can all be stronger than we think when someone counts on us. She nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the faint light of the shelter below. Rest now. Tomorrow we move to the next. The Vaith will not stop, but neither will we. For the first time since arriving, Ryan felt hope. The survivors were safe for now. The shelters were secure. And he knew that together, humans and Shalrin could face the machines, learning from each other, growing stronger with every challenge. The night fell over the rift. Smoke and dust drifted in the cool wind. Ryan stood beside Vera, looking down at the glowing shelter. Around them, the shadows of the enemy still lingered, but they no longer held power over him. A promise had been made. A promise would be kept. And the story of courage, of strength, and of hope was just beginning. The first light of dawn crept over the cliffs, painting the valley below in pale gold. The air was still, heavy with the scent of dust and metal from the earlier battle. Inside the shelter, Vera's people moved quietly, tending to minor injuries, and helping those who were weak from long travel. Their silver eyes held a mixture of relief and curiosity as they looked at Ryan, the human who had saved them. Ryan stood outside the shelter, scanning the horizon. The Vaith drones were gone, retreating to parts unknown. For now, silence ruled the land. The survivors were safe, but the war was not over. Vera joined him, her spear resting lightly on her shoulder. You have done what no one else could. You brought my people to safety. For that, we will always be grateful. Ryan looked at her. I didn't do it alone. You led them. You protected them. I just helped. She shook her head. No human has ever come to aid the Shalrin in this way. Your kind has a strength that we admire, a courage that shines even in darkness. We will tell your story in our songs. The survivors gathered outside, curious and cautious. They had seen glimpses of Ryan's skill, his clever use of light and strategy, but now they witnessed his calm in the aftermath. A few of the older ones bowed slightly in respect, and even the young raised their heads with pride. Vera addressed them in her language. She spoke of hope, of survival, and of the promise that had been made to a human who had crossed the stars, to help them. Though Ryan could not understand the words fully, he felt the warmth and gratitude in the tone. After a short rest, the group moved deeper into the cliffs. Vera had prepared another chamber, larger and better hidden, where the survivors could stay safely for months. Streams of clear water ran through it, and patches of sunlight filtered through cracks in the rock. It was quiet, secure, and for the first time the Shalrin could truly breathe. Ryan followed as they guided the survivors inside. Some of the younger ones hesitated near the human, unsure what to make of him. Ryan knelt and smiled gently. You are safe now, he said. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of the promise he had made. Slowly, the children and young adults relaxed. They watched him with curiosity and admiration. Vera approached a group of her people. We must teach them to live again, she said. They must remember who they are and how to survive, but we will do it together, with our new friend from the stars. Days passed in quiet preparation. Ryan helped repair tools and set up systems to maintain power and air in the shelter. Vera trained her people in movement and defense, combining Shalrin tradition with new strategies he suggested. Slowly, the survivors regained confidence and strength. One evening, Ryan and Vera sat at the edge of the cliff, watching the sun set over the jagged landscape. The sky was painted in orange and purple, and the air was cool. "You have done more than save lives," Vera said softly. "You gave my people hope. Without hope, we would have been lost, even if our bodies survived." Ryan looked at her. "I didn't think of it that way. I just knew I couldn't leave you behind." Her silver eyes met his. "That is what makes humans remarkable. Even when danger is greatest, you fight for others. That is why we will thrive again." The following morning, the survivors gathered at the entrance of the shelter. Vera spoke to them in her language, then turned to Ryan. "You will stay with us for now. Teach us what you know, and learn from us as well. Together, we will prepare for the future." Ryan nodded. He realized that this was not just a mission anymore. This was a new beginning for both humans and Shalren. Their survival depended on unity, courage, and learning from each other. Weeks passed. The survivors grew stronger, exploring the cliffs and nearby valleys under careful guidance. Ryan trained them in simple engineering, using small machines to help with water and energy. Vera taught them hunting, strategy, and the traditions of the Shalren. Slowly, a sense of community blossomed where there had once been fear and loss. One evening, Ryan stood outside, watching the stars emerge in the clear sky. The first time he had seen this world, it was quiet and empty, a place of ruins and danger. Now it was alive again with the sound of voices, laughter, and determination. Vera approached him, her expression calm and proud. "You have given us a gift we cannot repay. Not only life, but a future. The children will grow strong. The elders will teach again. Our songs will carry your name." Ryan smiled. "I didn't do it for fame. I just wanted to help, but it feels good to see them safe." She nodded. "Your kind has a place in our history now. Together, we will show the universe that life, courage, and hope can overcome even the greatest machines." The next morning, the survivors prepared for a journey beyond the cliffs. Vera had plans to find other scattered members of her clan. Ryan stayed at her side, helping guide them and ensuring the path was safe. As they moved, Ryan realized that the HFY story was not just about strength. It was about determination, clever thinking, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. Humanity, even one person, could make a difference in the face of overwhelming odds. They reached the edge of a high plateau, looking out over the valleys below. In the distance, glimmers of movement suggested that the Vaith had not entirely disappeared. But Ryan felt no fear. He knew that the combination of human ingenuity and Shalren resilience would give them a chance to face whatever came next. Vera turned to him. "Are you ready?" Ryan nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let's show them that life will not be taken without a fight." Together they led the survivors down the plateau toward the next step in their journey. The sun rose behind them, casting long shadows across the land. It was a new dawn, not just for the Shalren, but for humanity as well. Ryan felt hope rise in his chest. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and unknown challenges. But he had seen what courage and unity could do. He had seen life preserved against impossible odds, and he knew that no matter what came next, humans would face it with strength, intelligence, and heart. The survivors moved forward, their steps steady and full of purpose. Behind them, the cliffs and the rift remained, a reminder of the trials they had overcome. Ahead, the future awaited, filled with challenges and discoveries. And among them, a human from the stars would remain, a symbol of courage, friendship, and the enduring power of life. As they disappeared into the valley, the first light touched the horizon, signaling not just a new day, but a new era, a new dawn for the Shalren, a new dawn for humanity, a new dawn for hope.